I see cryptocurrencies and precious metals as allies in freedom.
We are going to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, of course, this is coming on the heels of the election. Donald Trump was elected, and Senator Lummis here is saying we're going to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So that's like a strategic gold reserve or a strategic oil reserve, a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So what do you make of this, Mike?
Hi, this is Mike Maloney, and Alan Hibbert is joining me once again. There have been some really big developments in precious metals and Bitcoin, and we're going to be talking about those. But first, I just want to sort of remind everybody that I publicly announced back in 2014 that I, a precious metals dealer, was buying Bitcoin. Hi, this is an action alert for July 11th, 2014. I promised all of the insiders that I'd keep them updated on what I'm doing financially. And recently I've done something quite unusual. Up until now, my portfolio is entirely precious metals, gold and silver, physical. But I've been investigating Bitcoin quite a bit. I was in Washington, D.C. recently at a Bitcoin conference, and I learned a lot about it. I became convinced that this has a tremendous upside potential. The downside potential, it would be short term, and there is a downside risk that it could entirely fail. So I'm not going to put a lot of my portfolio into it, but someday I will probably be up to around 10% of my portfolio going into Bitcoin, believe it or not. And we also became the very first precious metals dealer. GoldSilver.com became the first precious metals dealer to accept Bitcoin in payment for gold and silver. So, Alan, how are you doing? And you've put together a pretty good presentation for us.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I am doing well. And yeah, there is some news on Bitcoin and precious metals. This presentation is a little bit heavier on Bitcoin, but it's really about how Bitcoin and gold are similar and how they're becoming strategic assets all over the world, both of them in tandem. So yeah, I've got some exciting things I want to share if you're ready to get into it.
Yes, please do.
All right. Well, first of all, I have a tweet from you from November 6th, hot off the press. Gold silver ratio is back over 85. 85. Okay, so that is super high compared to the long run average of roughly 15, let's say. How are you interpreting this for gold and silver?
Well, let's interpret it for gold, silver, and Bitcoin. So right now, gold is on sale measured in Bitcoin, and silver is on sale measured in gold. That's what that's what this ratio of 85. Now, one of the things I've done back in 2014, I announced that I may put up to 10% of my assets into Bitcoin. But as cryptos have risen over the years, I take a little bit of profits and I turn them into something physical. And it has really protected me on these downdrafts that we have in cryptos. So yeah, that's what the gold silver ratio means to me.
Yeah, beautiful. That's how I was going to say, that's how I interpret it too. Gold is on sale relative to Bitcoin and silver is on sale relative to gold. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along here. Another fresh one from Senator Cynthia Lummis. We are going to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, of course, this is coming on the heels of the election. Donald Trump was elected, and Senator Lummis here is saying we're going to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So that's like a strategic gold reserve or a strategic oil reserve, a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So what do you make of this, Mike?
Far higher Bitcoin prices measured in US dollars. That's the main thing that I make of it. It would, when they talk about strategic Bitcoin reserve, I would think that hopefully this is part of the Treasury then, instead of the Federal Reserve. But either way, this is a very bullish announcement for Bitcoin.
Yes, I think so too. And I do want to remind people of something that came out a few months ago. Trump's Bitcoin stockpile plan stirs debate. Okay, so this was from August. And Trump said, if elected, it will be the policy of my administration to keep 100% of all the Bitcoin the U.S. government currently holds or acquires into the future. Adding the funds would serve as the core of the strategic national Bitcoin stockpile. Okay, and there is a comment here from Cynthia Lummis, a little bit from RFK. And by the way, RFK talked about having 19% of the Bitcoin, of the total circulating Bitcoin supply. That's the same amount of the gold supply, so 19%. So that's pretty incredible. So that's RFK basically saying that Bitcoin is a lot like gold. He's saying we should have 19% of each one, a physical and a digital asset. So that's big news. Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, they're talking about here, if they're comparing it to gold, they're talking about as a reserve asset. So it would be part of the, not as much a strategic stockpile. Like we used to have a strategic stockpile of silver that was basically because you can't build weaponry without silver. And so we liquidated that. I mean, idiotically liquidated that. But this is big news. And, you know, the whole world is turning toward these alternative safe haven assets. And we've seen a retracement in precious metals because of the election. And to me, they're just on sale. But these are things where both of them are going to do very, very well in the future. So go on to the next tab.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Just in, Bitcoin surpasses Meta to become the world's 9th largest asset by market cap.
Well, yeah, but look at what's on top.
Yeah. Gold is on top. Yeah. And I wasn't the one who highlighted these in yellow. This was either Bitcoin Magazine or whoever put this together, highlighting silver and gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously gold is the top dog. And at one point in the past, Bitcoin did pass silver, but then it, flipped back. And to me, it's a little strange to put companies on the same chart as these decentralized assets, gold, silver, and Bitcoin, but it is helpful to compare them. So yeah, do you think it's inevitable that Bitcoin passes gold or not so much?
I don't know, but I would expect that the top 3 spots will be occupied one day by the highlighted assets and not by these companies. Yeah. Meaning that there's a lot of room to run, especially like silver is immensely underpriced. And we did a video not long ago showing how idiotic it is not for silver down to be in just double digits. It really should be in triple digits, and it will be one day. And I have a feeling it's going to be soon. And it's going to be along with the run in Bitcoin and gold. It's all going up together against we've got this temporary boost in the dollar right now. And gold reacted to it by falling priced in dollars. I haven't seen the charts of all of the other currencies, though. What is gold's price in all of the other currencies if the dollar just rose? So I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, I mean, silver would only have to double to become the number 2 asset on this chart. So like only double kind of isn't that much. But if you think of doubling this market cap, we're already talking about basically 3.6 trillion, which would put it over here, pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. So I do think that's in the cards. So moving right along here, I do want to talk about some other countries, not just the United States. Confirmed, at least 5 countries are mining Bitcoin with government resources. This is huge. At least 5 countries are mining Bitcoin with government resources: El Salvador, Bhutan, Argentina, the UAE, and Ethiopia. And you are not bullish? Maybe 100,000 people in the world really understand what this is, and we are already at nation state mining? Wow. So this is a bold claim here. So over the next few tabs here in the presentation, I want to highlight articles from each of these countries. Some of these are old news, like El Salvador, it's a few years old. Others are more recent. So I just kind of want to go through these quickly and give people a sense of what's actually going on here. So El Salvador has just started mining Bitcoin using energy from volcanoes. So that's kind of a sensational headline. And by the way, this is 3 years old. This is October of 2021. So that's when it just started. And the big news at the time was El Salvador has mined 0.005 Bitcoin, worth less than $300, with power harnessed from a volcano. So Yeah, this has obviously only grown over the past 3 years, and El Salvador is the first country where Bitcoin is legal tender. So they've been on this path for quite a while. Really, they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. So that's why I did it. So any thoughts on this, Mike? El Salvador doing this?
I just want to see the rest of the countries.
Okay.
No. The only thought is that legal tender status. They were the first. Did Argentina just make it legal?
Legal tender? I have not heard that, but I have heard
Okay.
that the central bank has started mining Bitcoin, but I have not heard about legal tender laws yet.
Okay.
So anyways, I have one more from El Salvador here. This was 2 years later. Volcano Energy builds road to geothermal Bitcoin mining in El Salvador. And really what I wanted to highlight here is how a lot of this Bitcoin mining is actually done with renewable resources. So geothermal energy, or sometimes hydroelectric, wind, that kind of thing. So there is a movement there to use renewable resources because there's a financial incentive. I think a lot of people think about Bitcoin mining and they think it's just a waste of resources, but it actually is a very efficient use of resources simply because of the profit motive. If you're a Bitcoin mining company, your cost is the energy used to mine the Bitcoin. You don't want a high cost. Nobody in business wants a high cost. They want a low cost. And if they can get that cost down to zero, that's the best possible scenario for them. So there's a real financial incentive for Bitcoin miners all over the world to find energy that costs zero. And that's not necessarily because they're altruistic. It's just purely financial. So it kind of affects everybody, even the greedy people. So that's kind of a nice incentive at play. And moving on to Bhutan, similar thing. So they're upgrading, well, this is a few months old here, upgrading the Bitcoin mining in the Himalayas as the halving looms. Again, the halving was back in May. And Bhutan is using abundant hydroelectric power for Bitcoin mining. So similar idea. Ethiopia to become the first African country to start Bitcoin mining. This was from February of this year, and a little bit from that article. Basically, they're using an abundance of energy sources, chiefly hydroelectric, to mine Bitcoin in Ethiopia. And one other piece from that article. In 2023, Ethiopia ranked fourth. This is kind of surprising. Fourth behind the USA, Hong Kong, and Asia as one of the top destinations for Bitcoin mining rigs. That's surprising. I didn't realize Ethiopia was so high on the list. Russian Bitcoin mining companies have already started building Bitcoin mines in Ethiopia for their global clients. So even Russian companies are putting their mining rigs in Ethiopia because of the favorable treatment there, the weather, the energy, and everything. So yeah, that's just sort of a smattering of the countries that are mining Bitcoin. Thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, I have a big thought here on this one. Hi, I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for subscribing and mention that if you'd like to help our channel, please consider my company, GoldSilver.com, the next time you buy precious metals. We're one of the most trusted names in the industry. Our prices are sharp, delivery is fast, and we have an insiders program where you find out exactly what I'm doing with my own investments. Thanks for making GoldSilver.com your dealer, and now back to the video. Well, I have a big thought here on this one. A few years ago, an associate of mine and a friend, somebody who works on my Freedom Farm, actually he is the one that sort of manages the whole Freedom Farms project that I've got going on, trying to show the world the future of farming. But he went to Ethiopia and made a presentation for mining Bitcoin with all of their excess power a few years ago. He is responsible for this. The guy that works with me all the time is the reason that Ethiopia is mining Bitcoin. Basically, they took his project and sort of stole it. They didn't, but he still has relationships with them, and he's still got this very large Bitcoin mining plan for Ethiopia. So anybody that's interested in that because Ethiopia has a lot of practically free power. And that's the reason that he went there. That's the reason he put together this plan. Ethiopia is executing some of his plan, but he's still got it. So anybody that's interested may want to get a hold of Kevin Lally.
Wow, amazing. That's a pretty awesome story.
Yes, but it just goes to show that this I was way out front as far as precious metals dealers go when it comes to I see cryptocurrencies and precious metals as allies in freedom, and and they are a balance, and they are the safe haven run to assets as the we've just had the elections. Trump has been elected, and it's temporarily downside pressure on gold because it's been upside pressure on the dollar. But the expenditures that are coming our way over the next several years are enormous, and that means that there's going to be inflation following them, and that this is all very, very gold positive. It's also safe haven asset positive. We are having, I try to take a look at what is best for humanity always, not necessarily what's best for America or best for China or this or that. And international trade prevents war, period. The more countries are reliant on each other, the less likely war is. And so now we're becoming protectionists. We're going to levy all of these import duties on things, which is going to cause an inflationary, so if you're in the market for a television or something like that, buy it now is my message right there, because next year it's going to cost you a whole lot more. That's my analysis there. So let's move on to the next tab, unless you've got any other things to say. Oh, well, the Russian mining, but it's Russian mining in Ethiopia, right? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And these are Russian companies. It's not necessarily the Russian state.
This whole doorway into Ethiopia was opened by Kevin Lally.
That's impressive. Very cool. Nice. Well, moving right along here. The Central Bank of Argentina opened an art exhibit, quote unquote, yesterday that includes Bitcoin mining equipment actively mining Bitcoin. This is the first central bank in the world I'm aware of to be openly mining Bitcoin. The future is coming very fast. And that comes from Pomp less than a week ago. So yeah, Central Bank of Argentina mining Bitcoin openly. That's pretty impressive. What are your thoughts?
I just think that this has been something where it's been whittling away. I was resistant to Bitcoin from 2000 in 2010, 11. It took me until 2014 to get it. I mean, this guy Trace Mayer, who is a Bitcoin billionaire now, flew to my house in like 2010, and he flies to Los Angeles, comes to my house and says, "You got to look at this thing, Bitcoin." And it was below a dime back then. And I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I wasn't that interested. And this is when you could take any one of your old computers that you're no longer using, plug it into the wall, download the program, and start mining Bitcoin and actually make something off of these old computers. And then he comes back in like 2010, and Bitcoin is somewhere around 25 cents. And he's going, you got to look at this. I'm serious. And I still didn't understand it. He comes back in 2013, I think, in one of the 2 private planes that he had bought with some of the profits, and flies us around the Santa Monica Mountains and says, "I'm serious." So I really looked into it. I went to a conference called Bitcoin on the Beltway in 2014. And that's where I bought my first Bitcoin and announced that I was going to start putting up to 10% of my assets into Bitcoin.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been an amazing ride since. I got another one here. The UAE, Argentina, and Ethiopia begin state-backed Bitcoin mining. And this is from less than 2 weeks ago.
And there's Argentina, like I said.
Exactly. Mentioned again. And we've got 3 of the newest members of BRICS. So yes, it is important to remember that these are BRICS members. Argentina, the UAE, and Ethiopia have begun mining Bitcoin using government resources. So the move highlights an emerging trend among BRICS nations toward exploring digital assets for economic resilience and financial independence. I mean, does that sound like something an individual would want as well as a country? Economic resilience and financial independence? I think so. This sounds exactly like the thesis for gold and silver. You own this, you become a sovereign individual, a sovereign family. You can withstand crises. It's a lot harder to censor you. So yeah, I agree with your thesis, Mike, that that Bitcoin and gold and silver are allies in freedom, definitely. One other piece here, Sigel, the guy here, noted that Russia's sovereign wealth fund also invests in Bitcoin mining, as well as artificial intelligence infrastructure across the BRICS bloc. So the goal is to establish a regional system for settling international trade using Bitcoin, potentially reducing reliance on the US dollar. So this is the only article I've seen where the claim is that the goal of BRICS is to settle international trade using Bitcoin. This is the only article I've seen that claims that. The others claim that it's using alternative currencies and they don't specifically mention Bitcoin. So this could be misinformation, or it could be that this guy has some sneak peek that we don't have access to. So I don't know, Mike, have you heard about this, about using Bitcoin specifically, or is it just other currencies in general?
No, I just know that there's this slow whittling away at the US dollars, international reserve status. And I started seeing this coming back in 2009. So it's not like this is new for me. I stopped doing updates on the nails in the coffin of the global dollar standard simply because there's just too many of them. And it's going to be a slow whittling away until the day it's not so slow anymore. And then it's going to happen real quickly.
Yep. Gradually, then suddenly.
Yep. And what you're going to see with gold prices too is just, there are scenarios. I don't want to see $40,000 gold because it means everything else has gone to hell. But I do think that it's destined for these types of prices.
Yes, I agree. I would much rather have a wonderful life where I can just travel and buy things and everything's at peace and everything is low priced and affordable and high quality and everyone gets along with each other and my gold becomes worthless rather than, we have World War III and prices go to the moon, but my gold went to the moon as well.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. So
yeah, and I do want to say for a certain segment of the country, they are feeling very relieved by the election and like all of the pressure is off. No, we still have World War III looming. We've got all of these different problems and conflicts all over the world. There are still lingering supply chain disruptions, and now we have protectionism on the rise. And these things mean that you don't want to, you always want to be aware that there is another crisis around the corner. There's always something. Richard Russell said it years and years ago that nothing much happened in the markets yesterday, nothing much happened today. The problem with nothing is that you can't count on it. Something always happens. It was a great saying, and it is true. There may be these long pauses where nothing happens, but look at what has happened with gold over just the past couple of years. The rise has been enormous, and so something will happen, and when it does, you definitely want your precious metals and cryptos.
Absolutely. So moving right along here, Russia legalizes crypto mining and brings an experimental regime. So this comes back in July. Russia passed one law legalizing cryptocurrency mining starting November 1st of this year. So this was a law passed in July, but it takes effect November 1st. So we're now about a week into it. And a second experimental law allowing the central bank to authorize selected companies to conduct cross-border settlements and exchange trading in digital currency was also passed. So again, not specifically mentioning Bitcoin here, it's sort of like digital currency in general. That could mean a lot of different things.
Cross-border settlement. Yeah, it's big.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
It's big. That's all I said. But cross-border settlement, that is really a very big thing for a country to announce that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is that whole BRICS thing, getting away from the dollar.
And this is the consequences of weaponizing the dollar.
Yes.
This is something that our government never should have done. Weaponizing the dollar was the worst possible thing they could have done for the dollar.
Yep, exactly. And the funny thing is, there's a lot of talk about, is the price of gold manipulated, or the price of silver, or the price of Bitcoin? Let's pretend that they all are. And it's by, those who want the dollar to exist and all these other things are a competitor to the dollar. There's a very simple way to make gold, silver, and Bitcoin largely irrelevant from a monetary perspective and make them, quote unquote, go to zero. And that is, be disciplined with the dollar. Don't weaponize it. Don't print it into oblivion. Pretend that it's a scarce resource. Pretend that it's as good as gold, and work it into existence. And then no one will have a reason to go to gold, silver, or Bitcoin, right? If the dollar was as good as gold, you don't incentivize anybody to come up with these backup plans. And same thing with Russia and the BRICS nations. If you don't weaponize the dollar, you don't incentivize them to find an alternative. So I agree with you. Weaponizing the dollar is a terrible idea. Printing it into oblivion is a terrible idea. All these sanctions are a terrible idea, because in the long run, it just encourages individuals and countries to find something else to do. So they seal their own fate, long story short.
Yep.
All right. Russia launches BRICS mining infrastructure project. So this is a couple weeks old. Mining is not just a foundation for a digital economy. As Russia catches up with the United States in mining, so you can already see like their framework there. It's Russia catching up with the US. It means our country cannot be ignored. This brings economic growth, settlement liquidity with our partners, and creates skilled jobs nationwide. We believe that creating an independent BRICS payment system is an important goal for the future. Which would be based on state-of-the-art tools such as digital technologies and blockchain. So again, not mentioning Bitcoin specifically, just digital technologies and blockchain. But the goal is for Russia to be, catch up to the United States and make sure that their country cannot be ignored. They want to be a dominant player. So yeah, any thoughts here on this BRICS payment system, Mike?
I just think any country that is first in this, and previous administrations have been very crypto resistant. So now we have an administration that is embracing cryptos. So the resistance has set us behind, where places like El Salvador have been sort of leading on this. So it's just interesting. So move on to the next tab.
Yeah, absolutely. Knock, knock. Who's there? Putin. Putin who? Putin my country on a Bitcoin standard.
That's hilarious. Excellent. No comments. But it's awesome.
No comment. And yeah, every U.S. election week in Bitcoin's history has been the lowest price it will ever be again. 4 days left. Okay, this was a week ago. So the election is behind us now. And when I saw this tweet, I thought, you know what? I should buy some Bitcoin. And I did. I tweeted it out. I said, happy election day. I voted, but more importantly, I traded my dollars for Bitcoin. And by the way, I also bought silver the day before. I just didn't tweet about it. So I stocked up on both of them. Have you bought Bitcoin lately, Mike?
No, I've bought silver recently.
Okay.
That's what I bought. So I've got a pretty good crypto stash, and I'm sort of happy with it. I do think, though, that we might see a $250,000 sometime soon, something like that on Bitcoin. So
definitely possible.
Looking at that last chart. So anyway, okay.
Well, yeah, I just want to leave us with this. So thanks, Mike. That's all I got. Thank you for your time, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Alan, and we'll see everybody else on the next video.